What would you do if your kingdom's survival depended on a sorcerer? Obinna must deliver a letter through dangerous, enchanted lands while Abomini faces destruction from within. Abomini was a kingdom known for its power, beauty, and untold secrets. But beneath its golden sands and lush forest lies a curse so dark it threatens to destroy everything. It was said that the last sorcerer of the land, Onwu Nnadi, held the key to the kingdom's salvation. But the question was, could he be trusted? And what about the young man, Obinna, who had been tasked with a mission so dangerous it could cost him his life? Nena, a widow and mother, sits on a worn wooden stool, staring at her only son, Obinna. Her eyes are heavy with worry. Nena fears the calamity that was about to befall on Abomini kingdom. Her place of birth and the only solution to save Abomini was a letter in her possession, but the problem was who would deliver the letter. The forest to Abomini was dangerous and enchanted. One evening she called her only son Obinna. "Obinna, my son, take this letter," she said, her voice trembling but firm. "Go to the kingdom of Abomini. Look for a man called Onwu Nnadi. He is the only one who can save our land." Obinna, young and strong, looks at his mother with confusion. "But Mama, why send me to a sorcerer? Can't we trust the gods instead?" Nena shakes her head. "The gods have spoken, Obinna. Onwu Nnadi is no ordinary man. He is the last sorcerer of our land, and without him, Abomini will fall." Reluctantly, Obinna takes the letter, unaware that his journey will change not only his life but the destiny of the entire kingdom. And so, Obinna's journey began, a journey into the heart of a kingdom where nothing was as it seemed. As he stepped onto the narrow path leading to Abomini, he carried more than a letter. He carried the hopes of his people and the weight of an ancient curse. The path to Abomini was not straightforward. The air grew colder, and the trees seemed to whisper secrets. Suddenly, Obinna heard voices, soft, melodious, but filled with warning. 3 beautiful maidens appeared out of nowhere. Their names were Ngozi, Chinoza, and Amarachi, and their beauty was otherworldly. "Turn back," said Ngozi, her voice like the wind through dry leaves. "This is a forbidden land. No man is allowed to pass here." But Obinna stood his ground. "I must get to Abomini. I have a message for Onwu Nnadi." The other maiden Chinoza smiled, but it was a smile that sent chills down his spine. "Then remember this, left is destruction. Always move right. Do not trust what your eyes see." Obinna nodded, though his heart was heavy with fear. The maidens disappeared as suddenly as they had appeared, leaving him alone with their warning echoing in his ears. Back in the royal palace of Abomini, chaos was brewing. The princess, Edeora, lay sick in her chambers, her condition worsening by the day. King Izamodi sat on his throne, his face a mask of worry. "This must not leave the walls of this palace," he told his advisors. "If the people learn that my daughter is ill, they will lose faith in the throne." But the king had more than his daughter's illness to worry about. In the shadows, a group of exiled nobles, led by Nnadi, plotted to overthrow him. "We must kill the king," Nnadi said, his voice dripping with malice. "And Onwu Nnadi. Only then can we reclaim our land." Oluchi, one of the rebels, shook her head. "It's not that simple. Onwu's life is tied to the amulet of Abomini. Destroy it, and he will fall." The rebels knew they had little time. The kingdom was ripe for chaos, and the battle for power had begun. Meanwhile, Obinna's journey grew more dangerous with each step. He encountered strange figures and faced trials that tested his courage. The path to Abomini was fraught with deception. At one point, he stumbled upon an old man sitting by the roadside. The man looked harmless, but his eyes were sharp. "Where are you going, young man?" he asked. "To Abomini," Obinna replied. The old man laughed, a sound that sent shivers down Obinna's spine. "Beware, boy. Not everything is as it seems in Abomini. Trust no one, not even yourself. Obinna nodded. Thank you, wise one. As Obinna reached the gates of Abomini, he had a vision. A woman with 4 eyes appeared before him, her gaze piercing and terrifying. Do not trust anyone, she said. The fate of Abomini lies in your hands, but the path is full of betrayal. Obinna woke from the vision trembling, the weight of his mission pressing heavily on his shoulders. When Obinna finally reached the palace and delivered the letter to Onwu Nnadi, the sorcerer's expression darkened. The rebels are close, Onwu said. The amulet must be protected at all costs. If it falls into the wrong hands, Abomini is doomed. As the palace prepared for battle, alliances shifted, and secrets were revealed. The rebels launched their attack, but the true enemy remained hidden. Just as the rebels stormed the palace, a dark figure emerged from the shadows, a figure more powerful and terrifying than anyone could have imagined. The battle for Abomini had just begun, and the fate of the kingdom hung by a thread. The palace was no longer a sanctuary. Tension filled every corridor as the rebels prepared their final strike. The king's loyalists fortified their defenses, while Onwu Nnadi retreated to his chambers to decipher the hidden message in the letter brought by Obinna. Deep in the heart of the palace, Onwu Nnadi sat cross-legged before a glowing orb. The letter was no ordinary piece of parchment. It held secrets written in the language of the gods, secrets that could either save Abomini or doom it forever. As Onwu Nnadi muttered incantations, Obinna stood guard outside his door. But something felt off. The air grew heavier, and the shadows seemed to move on their own. Suddenly, a loud crash echoed through the hallway. Obinna turned sharply, his heart pounding. From the darkness emerged a figure cloaked in black, its eyes glowing red. Who are you? Obinna demanded, gripping the hilt of his knife tightly. The figure chuckled, a low, guttural sound. I am the end of all things, it said. Step aside, boy, or face your doom. Obinna stood his ground. You'll have to go through me first. The figure lunged, and Obinna barely dodged in time. The fight was fierce, the sound of clashing steel echoing through the palace. But Obinna, though young, fought with the strength of a lion. He managed to drive the intruder back, but not before the figure whispered, "It's already too late." Inside his chambers, Onwu Nnadi finally unlocked the letter's secret. His eyes widened in horror as he read the words. It was a warning, no, a prophecy. The kingdom's true enemy was not the rebels, nor the witches, but something far older and far darker. A force that had been sleeping for centuries beneath the sands of Abomini, waiting for the right moment to awaken. Onwu Nnadi burst out of his room, clutching the letter. He found Obinna, bloodied but standing tall. "We are out of time," Onwu said. "The amulet, it's not just a source of my power. It's a seal. A seal keeping an ancient evil locked away." Obinna frowned. "What kind of evil?" Onwu's voice trembled. "The kind that will consume everything." Meanwhile, in the rebels' camp, Nnamdi and Oluchi were preparing their final assault. But not everyone was convinced of their cause. Chidibie, the youngest of the rebels, approached Oluchi. "What if we are wrong?" he asked. "What if this fight destroys the very kingdom we are trying to save?" Oluchi glared at him. "Then we rebuild from the ashes. Abomini is ours by right, and I will not let it slip away." But Chidibie wasn't convinced. As the rebels marched toward the palace, he hung back, his mind racing. Something about this fight didn't feel right. Back in the palace, Onwu Nnadi and Obinna rushed to the sacred chamber where the amulet was kept. But when they arrived, they found the doors shattered and the room empty. The amulet was gone. And with it, the seal was broken. Far beneath the palace, the ground began to shake. Cracks appeared in the floor, and a low, menacing growl echoed through the halls. From the depths of the earth, a monstrous figure began to rise. Its eyes burned like fire, and its voice was like thunder. "I am Aziki, the destroyer," it roared. "Your kingdom is mine." The rebels, hearing the commotion, stopped in their tracks. They watched in horror as the palace seemed to come alive with fire and shadow. Nnadi turned to his followers. "This is our chance. While the palace is in chaos, we take the throne." But Chidibia shook his head. "Can't you see? This isn't about the throne anymore. If we don't stop that thing, there won't be a kingdom left to rule." Against Nnadi's orders, Chidibia ran toward the palace. He didn't know if he could make a difference, but he knew he had to try. Inside the palace, chaos reigned. The king's guards were no match for Aziki, and the monster tore through them like paper. Onwu Nnadi and Obinna stood side by side, facing the creature. "We can't fight it," Onwu said. "Not without the amulet." "Then what do we do?" Obinna asked. Onwu hesitated. "We find it. But we'll need help." As if on cue, Chidibia burst into the room. "I don't know what's happening," he said, "but I want to help." Onwu nodded. "Then let's go." The three of them, Onwu, Obinna, and Chidibia, set out to find the stolen amulet. Along the way, they encountered traps, illusions, and enemies at every turn. But they also found unexpected allies, including Ngozi, Chinoza, and Amarachi, the forbidden maidens who had warned Obinna earlier. As they ventured deeper into the heart of Abomini, the group began to realize that the true battle wasn't just against Aziki. It was against their own fears, doubts, and the secrets they had kept hidden from each other. The group finally reached the edge of a dark forest, where the amulet was said to be hidden. But standing in their way was a figure cloaked in shadow, the same figure Obinna had fought before. As the group entered the dark forest, the air grew colder, and the trees seemed to close in on them. The figure in shadows, the same one Obinna had faced earlier, stepped forward. "Did you really think it would be this easy?" The figure sneered, its presence suffocating and its voice dripping with menace. The shadowed figure laughed, low and chilling. "You should have stayed in the palace, fools. The amulet belongs to the destroyer now, and no one will stop him." Obinna gripped his weapon tightly. "We'll see about that," he said, his voice steady despite the fear creeping into his heart. The battle began, and it was unlike anything they had faced before. The figure moved like smoke, its strikes deadly and precise. Onwu Nnadi hurled spells that lit up the darkness, but the figure countered them with equal force. Amid the chaos, Chidibia noticed something, an opening. The figure hesitated, just for a moment, when Onwu Nnadi invoked the name of the gods. "Distracted!" Chidibia shouted, darting to the side. Obinna and Onwu Nnadi launched a coordinated attack, forcing the figure back. Seizing the moment, Chidibia found the amulet hidden in a hollow tree. Its glow was faint but unmistakable. "I've got it," he yelled. But the figure turned, its eyes blazing with fury. "You'll regret that," it hissed, charging toward him. Chidibia held up the amulet, and to everyone's shock, the figure stopped in its tracks, recoiling as though in pain. "What is this?" Obinna asked, breathing heavily. Onwu Nnadi's voice was grim. "The amulet isn't just a seal. It's a mirror. It reveals the truth behind illusions." The figure screamed as the shadows around it began to dissolve, revealing the face of Nnadi, the leader of the rebels. "Nnadi!" Chidibia gasped. "It was you all along." Nnadi sneered. "You're all fools. Do you really think I wanted the throne? No, I wanted the power that comes with it. Aziki promised me that power, and I'll stop at nothing to claim it." Onwu Nnadi stepped forward, the amulet glowing in his hand. "You've been consumed by darkness, Nnadi. But it's not too late to turn back." Nnadi laughed bitterly. "Turn back? There's no turning back. The destroyer is awake, and soon, this kingdom will be mine. Back in the palace, Aziki continued his rampage. The king's guards had been reduced to ash, and the throne room was in ruins. The king himself stood defiantly, his sword drawn, but it was clear he wouldn't last much longer. Aziki was no ordinary enemy. He was a force of nature, a being of pure destruction. And with every passing moment, his power grew stronger. Just as Aziki prepared to deliver the final blow, a blinding light filled the room. Onwu Nnadi, Obinna, and Chidibe appeared, the amulet glowing brightly in Onwu's hand. Aziki roared, his voice shaking the very foundations of the palace. "You dare challenge me?" Onwu Nnadi stepped forward. "This ends now, Aziki. You will not destroy Abomini." The fight against Aziki was fierce and unrelenting. Onwu Nnadi used every ounce of his magical power, but Aziki countered with raw strength and dark energy. Obinna and Chidibe fought alongside him, their weapons glowing with the amulet's power. But even together, they struggled to keep up with Aziki's might. "We need more time," Onwu shouted, sweat dripping down his face. But Aziki gave them none. He struck with a force that sent Obinna crashing into a wall, the amulet flying from his hand. "Obinna!" Chidibe cried, rushing to his side. The amulet landed at the feet of Princess Edeora, who had been watching from the shadows. Though weak from her illness, she stepped forward, her eyes filled with determination. "You won't win," she said, her voice steady. Aziki laughed. "And what can you do, little princess?" Edeora held up the amulet. "This." The room was filled with a brilliant light as the amulet's power surged through her. Aziki screamed, his form flickering and weakening. The light from the amulet grew brighter, and the ground beneath Aziki began to crack. But the power was too much for Edeora to control. Onwu Nnadi rushed to her side. "You must let go, princess. The amulet will consume you." But Edeora shook her head. "If it's the only way to save Abomini, then so be it." Obinna, still injured, struggled to his feet. "There has to be another way." Onwu Nnadi looked at him, his eyes filled with sadness. "Sometimes, there isn't." Just as it seemed Edeora would be lost, Chidibe stepped forward. "No. We do this together." He placed his hand on the amulet, and the light grew even stronger. One by one, the others joined in, Onwu Nnadi, Obinna, and finally King Izamodi. Together, their combined strength overwhelmed Aziki, banishing him back into the void. When the lights faded, the palace was silent. Aziki was gone, but the cost of victory was clear. The amulet lay shattered, its power spent. Edeora collapsed, but her eyes fluttered open as Obinna caught her. "We did it," she whispered. "Yes," Obinna said, his voice filled with relief. "We did." The battle was over, but the scars it left behind ran deep. The palace was in ruins, the people shaken, and the kingdom of Abomini stood on the edge of a new beginning. Yet, amidst the ashes of destruction, hope flickered like the first light of dawn. In the days that followed, King Izamodi called his people together. The rebels who had once sought to overthrow him were given a choice: redemption or exile. Chidibe, who had proven his loyalty in the final battle, was forgiven and made an advisor to the king, tasked with rebuilding trust between the throne and the people. Obinna returned to his village, hailed as a hero. His courage and determination had saved the kingdom, but he was quick to remind everyone that it was a team effort. Princess Edeora, now healed and stronger than ever, vowed to walk alongside her father to ensure that Abomini would never face such darkness again. She sought to bring unity to the land, encouraging open dialogue between the royal family and the people. Onwu Nnadi, the sorcerer who had fought so valiantly, knew his time in Abomini was coming to an end. With the amulet destroyed, his powers were fading. But he did not view this as a loss. As he prepared to leave, the king and his family gathered to bid him farewell. King Izamad said a word of appreciation. "You have been more than a protector to this kingdom, Onwu. You have been its heart. Thank you for all you have done." Onwu smiled, his eyes twinkling. "The heart of Abomini is not mine, Your Majesty. It belongs to you and your people. Guard it well. The true power of a kingdom lies not in magic or might but in its people, their unity, their resilience, their love for one another." With that, he vanished into the horizon, leaving behind a legacy of wisdom and courage. The kingdom of Abomini began to heal. Villages were rebuilt, families reunited, and the fear that had gripped the land slowly gave way to hope. The once fractured royal family grew stronger. Princess Edeora worked tirelessly to bring education and resources to the people. Prince Chaik, inspired by Obinna's bravery, joined efforts to train a new generation of warriors, ensuring the kingdom would always be protected. As for Obinna, he returned to his village but remained close to the royal family. King Izamodi offered him a place at court, but Obinna declined, choosing instead to live among his people as a bridge between the throne and the common folk. The story of Abomini teaches us that strength lies not in power but in unity. When people set aside their differences and come together, they can overcome even the darkest of forces. It reminds us that bravery is not the absence of fear but the will to act despite it. And above all, it shows us that true leadership is about service, humility, and love for one's people. And so, the kingdom of Abomini flourished once more. Its people, shaped by the trials they had faced, became stronger and more united than ever. As the sun set over the golden sands and lush forest, the land was filled not with whispers of fear but with songs of hope. Thank you for joining us on this journey. If you found it inspiring, don't forget to hit the like button, share it with your friends, and subscribe to our channel for more incredible tales like this one. Until next time, remember, the strongest kingdoms are built on love and unity. Goodbye for now.